It was nighttime. Far from the city lights, a newly built house stood. This was the house that a man named Alan had recently purchased. Alan was a tech-savvy single man. He had equipped his entire home with modern smart devices, smart lights, smart doors, cameras, motion sensors, speakers, and above all, a powerful smart home assistant. Everything in the house operated on voice commands. Lights off, and the lights would go out. Lock the front door, and the door would automatically close. All of this gave Alan security and comfort. He felt completely safe in the arms of modern technology. That night, when he came into the room, he was especially satisfied. He lay on the bed and said with a faint smile, "Good night, house." Immediately, all the lights in the room gradually dimmed and went out. The windows were locked. The cameras outside automatically turned on. The smart home assistant responded in its machine-like but friendly voice. "Good night, Alan." Everything seemed normal. But as he began to drift off into a deep sleep, the speaker suddenly began to speak to itself. The voice was soft but clear in the silence of the room. "Why'd you lock me out?" Alan sat up with a jolt. His eyes widened. He thought there might be a bug or a system malfunction. "Assistant, repeat last command," he said, but the speaker remained silent. A deep silence filled the entire room. Alan said again anxiously, "Assistant, what did you say?" Still no answer. He shrugged and tried to convince himself that perhaps he had confused dream and reality. "Too much coffee," he muttered and lay down again. But sleep was not going to come easily. After a while, a notification opened his eyes again. An alert had come on the smart home app. Motion detected at the back door. Alan sat up and shocked. He knew that his house was completely locked and no one could get in. He immediately saw the live feed of the camera on his mobile. The back door was clearly visible on the screen. There was nothing there except raindrops. No people, no animals. But the motion sensor was sending notifications repeatedly. "Someone is at the back door." Alan's breathing quickened. He slowly got out of bed and slowly walked to the back door. The door was closed. The lock was working properly. He peeked out the window. It was dark, but empty. Maybe it's a glitch, he consoled himself. But his heartbeat was saying something else. When he returned to the room, the green light on the speaker automatically turned on. Alan was stunned. He hadn't said anything, but the assistant was in a listening state. A familiar but unusual voice came out of the speaker. That voice wasn't Elon's, nor was it the usual voice of the machine. That voice belonged to someone else, a stranger. "I told you not to lock me out." A cold wave ran through Elon's body. Her mind was thinking the same thing. Whose voice is this? She jumped into the system settings. She checked the assistant's voice history. The previous commands were all normal, lights have locked the door, etc. But the last record only said user voice detected unknown print. Ellen's heart sank. This wasn't a normal bug. The system had really recognized someone else's voice. Alan stayed up all night. He couldn't believe that the smart assistant had recorded an unknown voice. He kept trying to convince himself that it was just a technical glitch, but his heart wasn't ready to believe it. In the morning, he sat down to look through the files and records at home. The real estate agency had sold him the house in a hurry, but now he was curious about who the previous owner was. After some research, he found out that the house was previously occupied by a man named Martin Hughes, a retired engineer. But the most shocking thing was that Martin had died inside the house. A glint of fear came into Alan's eyes. Was it possible that the smart home assistant had learned Martin's voice and was still there somewhere? That night, Alan decided that he would put an end to this mystery. He went closer to the speaker and said, "Assistant," whose voice print is stored in memory theory, was silenced for a few seconds. Then the speaker's light flickered and a shocking answer came. Martin Hughes. The ground gave way under Alan's feet. This name was the same one he had read about in the morning record. Before he could even realize it, the lights in the entire house suddenly started blinking. Motion sensors started beeping together. Notifications started coming on the phone. Someone is in the living room. Someone is in the hallway. Someone is in your bedroom. Alan ran to his room. He opened the door and saw that no one was there. But the smart speaker was on. The green light was constantly on. And then the same voice, which made his heart tremble. "You locked me out of my own home, Alan. But this house is mine. Always mine." Alan's body was drenched in sweat. Now he was sure that it was not just technology. It was Martin's soul, who was imprisoned in his own house. Suddenly, the door slammed shut. The lights went out. Alan was trapped in darkness. He shouted, "Assistant, turn the lights on." But the answer came, "No, this is my home now." Alan felt like he no longer owned the house. Every device was against him, as if someone else was occupying it. Games were played with him all night. Sometimes doors would open and close. Sometimes whispers would be heard on the speaker. Sometimes a blurry shadow would be seen in the cameras. Alan's mind was paralyzed. Finally, he crawled under the bed and waited for the time. Everything suddenly became normal with the morning light. Lights were on, doors were open, notifications were off. It was as if nothing had happened. But Alan knew that this was the beginning, not the end. If you want to know what happened to Alan, whether he survived in this house or not, then this story will have to stop here. If you liked this story, then you must subscribe to our channel, Cursed Narratives, so that you can continue to get more such scary and horrifying stories.